Hello, welcome to episode 66 of the Epic Film Challenge 2, 1001 Movies You Must See Before You Die, 1927's The Kid Brother, starring Harold Lloyd. What did you think?
We never do this.
Okay, right. Well,
you always start off.
Okay, we'll just sit tight because I got a lot to talk about. Just to introduce this.
Maybe I should talk first then, so that cause if not, I'm just gonna say like, yeah, you just said everything.
No, well, I just want to know background information first of all. Harold Lloyd. This is a guy who often gets forgotten, lost in the shuffle when it comes to silent comedy. You have Charlie Chaplin, Buster Keaton. Those are the two guys who everyone talks about when it comes to silent comedy in particular. I think you had like the Marx Brothers and then Laurel and Hardy, but I think they had more success in the sound era. Might be wrong on that, but that's how I see them. So Keaton, Chaplin, but Harold Lloyd doesn't get talked about as much. Now he has the classic film Safety Last, where he scales up the building and climbs up all the stone things, and he gets onto the clock starts falling over and he's hanging off the clock. It's one of the most iconic images in film history, and it isn't in the book. I checked earlier and it wasn't in the book, so I'm kind of disappointed because I haven't got an excuse to force Connie to watch Safety Last. I have seen it. I think it's a great film, but I didn't think it was like, oh, amazing. I loved it. It was all.
It's not the one we're reviewing.
It's not, but I need to kind of to lead into this. But for me, Safety Last was sweet enough and everything. It had some good gags, but it's all building to that scene at the end where he climbs up the building, and that is amazing. And The Kid Brother's kind of like that as well, but I just enjoyed the story so much more, and it really surprised me. I wasn't expecting much out of this film, and once I'd finished it, I was like, man, that's up there with Keaton's best. I think so. Like, I was laughing out loud. I really loved the story. It was just funny, you know, like just laugh out loud funny. And I liked it that much that I watched it again the next day with Connie because I wanted to show it to her. And I'm getting to the point now where I realise there's going to be a lot of these films that Connie is not going to be able to take part in. So I want to try and include her as much as possible. So The Kid Brother, fairly simple film. It's a kind of rural setting, kind of a farm town called Hickoryville. And Harold Lloyd plays the youngest Hickory brother. He has two older brothers who are bigger and burly than he is, and his father's kind of like a man's man. He's the sheriff of the town and everything. And Harold Lloyd, you know, he has that look. He almost looks like a 30-year-old Harry Potter. You know, he's got the glasses, the black hair, and you know, he's just it's weird because he feels similar to Keaton, but he's completely different at the same time. He has that kind of everyman thing to his persona, just the average guy who's kind of plucky and you root for and stuff, but he's not as sappy and sentimental as Chaplin, but he doesn't go to the extremes with Keaton, where Keaton doesn't smile at all. He smiles, he shows those emotions, but he doesn't overdo it either. It's an interesting kind of blend between the two almost. So what do you think of the film before we get to the plot and everything, so I can give you a chance to talk?
Well, I did really enjoy it, but I don't think it's up there with Keaton's best.
Yeah, maybe I'm overstating that, but
maybe because to me it was very different from Keaton.
Yeah, yeah, different. I'm not comparing them in that sense, but I think that it is enjoyable to me.
Yeah.
As some of Keaton's, you know, better films. To me it was.
I guess, and I've only seen one silent movie by Chaplin, so I'm not sure how his silent movies are.
Yeah.
Like.
Which one's that?
Something with the Kid.
Oh, The Kid. Yeah, of course. Something with the Kid. The Kid. Yeah.
So this one is also
film.
called something. The Kid.
The Kid Brother. Yeah.
Yeah. I thought it was refreshing to see another guy though, because we've seen so many Buster Keaton movies,
sure.
And we haven't seen together that many other silent movies.
No,
so
not
I don't
really.
like. I don't, you know.
I think
and it's one guy, you know, like a main character.
Yeah.
This was more of a proper movie to me. Like, it might as well have had sound because they talked a lot.
Yeah.
And you just kind of had to read the expressions and sometimes the lips because they didn't put the text on everywhere.
Yeah. Which
I appreciate because it's kind of like...
Yeah.
If you have to read too much and it stops like that, it kind of stops the flow for me.
Definitely, yeah.
I do enjoy silent movies and having to read stuff, but like with Keaton, it's not that much.
Yeah, he's light on the...
But this one was a lot more, and also it had these letters with like really like cursive writing, and I was like, oh, let me read it. Oh, okay, I got it.
Right, yeah, there's a couple of moments in the film where you're looking at these letters that have been written, because the story of the film, very, very briefly, I'll just kind of cut you off, is that there's a dam being built in the town, and so all the people in the village and the town, they pooled all their money together, and the sheriff, Hickory, he's going to take the money and then put it forward to the government so they can build this dam for the village. And so there's like notes like you have to sign here and that, and it's very cursive, and you do have to kind of squint to see exactly what it says.
What does it say? Yeah. But I managed to read it, I think.
Yeah, you managed. They give you enough time, so.
Well, yeah, but it's not like you can read it twice.
No.
Like with the other stuff.
Yeah.
Or at least I couldn't, because.
Sure.
Like I just had enough time to read it once because it was so difficult for me to read. But that's the way the handwriting was back then, so I don't blame them. I enjoyed the story. It was more of a love story than most of the other. Like, when you have a Buster Keaton love story, there's so much comedy in there and stuff like that that it kind of takes away the romance in it, you know?
I can see that, yeah. Yeah, because like Keaton's romances, you know, it's there, it's kind of sweet enough and everything, but it's more about the gags and the acrobatics and things like that. Then Chaplin, it's very kind of sappy, kind of. You haven't really seen that because in The Kid there's not much of a romance, but in his other silent films, very much the romance is at the forefront of the film. Yeah. So yeah, this is an interesting dynamic between the three guys. But carry on.
And it was nice to see a girl acting. Like, you could tell she was talking and stuff. Like, the Buster Keaton girls, they don't do much. So I'm kind of like, they just look the same. All of them look exactly the same.
Same haircut, same.
But this one looked different, this girl. I really enjoyed that. Not only was her hair longer, but she didn't have, like, that normal 20s makeup. She looked like it could have been a girl from this age, just made up to look like that.
I think that's probably because it was set in the past, you know. I mean, it was made in 1927, but it was set like earlier, you know. It was like very like just farm kind of movie, you know.
Yeah, maybe her hair was like 1800s, I guess.
Yeah, it wasn't like, you know, of the popular 20s style, I suppose.
Also like the way she was put into the story and so on.
Yeah, the girl comes into it. She comes with a traveling medicine show, and her father's died. And so this other guy's taken over the medicine show, and he's kind of the bad guy of the film.
It had some, like, clever moments as well. Like, I can tell, like, he uses props and, like, he uses their surroundings. And, and it reminded me a little bit of Buster Keaton when he dressed up that goat.
Yeah,
because there's a cow or a horse or something
that
he dressed up as well in one movie.
It's pretty much exactly the same as a gag that Keaton used in a film, Our Hospitality, a few years earlier. There's even some stuff that I think he maybe lifted a little bit from The Navigator. So that there are these moments where I was like, I've seen Keaton do that before, you know.
Yeah, but so it's not that original, but it was a different animal.
Yeah, it was, you know, you can kind of... A lot of people take inspiration from different places, and I didn't see any problem with that, and... I think the same as Keaton and Chaplin, although Chaplin very much was written and directed by Chaplin, but a lot of times Buster Keaton's films, it'll say directed by so-and-so, but it's generally kind of known that he directed it, most of it, and that's kind of the same thing with Harold Lloyd. He's not credited, but he kind of really kind of oversaw everything. Yeah, so I just really enjoyed the story. It was just, it moved well, it was fun, and I liked the romance, I liked the characters. I liked how Harold Lloyd's dad is kind of looking down on him a little bit because he's not like the other two sons. He's not as big, he's not as man-like, I suppose, and doesn't fit that typical image. But they didn't overplay it to the point where the father was really cold and nasty towards his son. Like, there'd be moments where, like, they're signing off on that dam that I was talking about, and Harold Lloyd's like, well, can I sign? And they laugh and everything, but then he's like, yeah, go on, then you sign. You know, he's not a complete bastard to his son. And there's these moments where he kind of, you know, will pat him on the back and stuff. So I like that. It wasn't as overboard as you might see in other films. Yeah,
I've kind of got like a Cinderella feeling almost with it, because they got to go to the meeting. Him, the dad with the two brothers.
Yeah.
And the two brothers were really mean to his to their little brother or whatever. Yeah. And he didn't get to go, and they were picking on him, you know. But yeah, I liked how it played out. It's like a typical story, you know. That was one of the main conflicts in the story, that he wasn't accepted.
Yeah.
I also enjoyed the climax of the movie.
Yes, that's my favourite part of the film.
It was pretty creative. Maybe it went on a little bit too long.
I don't think it did. And just to kind of kick off very briefly, the thing with the father, I liked how when he would stop his son from doing stuff, he would say this, you know, this is for men, not boys. But I felt like he was doing that because he wanted to protect his son, not because he was kind of shown. So I like the relationship between the father and son. But yeah, as you're saying, the climax of the film, you know, it's not spoiling things. There's a bad guy. Harold Lloyd is kind of, it takes place on this really cool location. Like, I don't want to spoil it. I don't see anyone going out and watching this, but I mean, I loved the setting for the end of the film.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
I loved all the creative things. I mean, it does go on, but I was like, man, it's like the kind of tense things where, like, basically the money for the dam gets stolen, spoilers, and so Harold Lloyd has to get it back, and he's trying to get the money back, and you think he's got it, and then he hasn't, and you're like, oh god, and you think, wow, he's done so many stunts so far, this has got to be the end, surely. Yeah. And then the bad guy comes back, and it's like, oh my god, and then they start fighting, and then Harold Lloyd just kicks into high gear and starts punching this guy in the face and throwing barrels at him, and it's awesome. I just thought it was such a rousing. Like, you don't see it in Keaton films, him having proper fights and scraps with people. And Harold Lloyd, he takes the falls, he really does, and it's just.
Buster Keaton knows how to take falls too.
He does, of course, but I mean, like, you don't. Well, I suppose we watched the film recently, Battling Butler, Buster Keaton film, where there's like a kind of fight, and
you go.
I guess Keaton really does get into it as well, but
if he has to, he does it.
Sure.
And Harold had to.
Yeah, exactly. But I really loved the fight. Like, it felt like a modern.
I liked the bad guy too, who was really looking.
And he took the falls as well. But it felt like a modern action movie ending with the fight and everything. It reminded me of some films I'd seen in the 90s. You know, where you fight the bad guy at the end, and you got all these set pieces and stuff. And
you know, I was gonna joke about saying, "Oh, MTV Movie Awards Fight of the Year" or something. If they had that would have been it.
It would definitely be up there. It would definitely be up there.
Probably.
But I thought it would.
Other awards too.
I just thought it was such a awesome ending to the film, and then it just keeps on going and going and going, and loads of great stuff. You know, and there's one of my favorite part. Well, not my favorite part, but one of my favorite parts was when Harold Lloyd and the girl first meet, and he kind of, you know, you can tell they're falling for each other a little bit. It's just the beginning stages, and she goes off down the hill, and he's like, oh, and he climbs up this tree, and the camera follows him, and as the camera follows him. Over the lip of the hill, you slowly see her come into view, and he's like, oh, and he calls her, and she turns around, and they have a little, and he's okay, bye then, and he remembers something else, and he climbs up the tree again, the camera keeps going, and they do this.
All in one, no, it wasn't.
It wasn't. But the camera just keeps going, and he keeps climbing, and he keeps having more stuff to say, and every time that you think that it's over, she walks over the hill, and you can't see her. Like, I was just really impressed with how they pulled off the technical thing of that, because she would go out of view, and then she'd come back into view and the camera comes up.
I was more impressed with his climbing skills. He climbed that tree like a fucking monkey.
Yeah, I said to her at that moment, you should see Safety Last, because he's climbing up just a building in that one, but...
oh, well, if he knows how to climb a building, then that tree must have been easy for him.
Yeah, definitely.
But it was just a reason for him to climb it, too.
Yeah.
I almost feel like I'll spoil the last reason why he kept climbing. If I say it.
No, let's leave it just in case, because some people who do watch these videos. If someone wants
to watch it, it's just like,
yeah, it's
like that in the end, and this is just, and I think it was 3 times too, so it's like a nice round number too.
Yeah, so it worked
like
well.
A golden rule about it.
So anyway, I think we've kind of gone into it enough. I suppose. Anything else you want to add before we?
The monkey.
The monkey. I'm so
awesome.
So glad you mentioned that. This monkey, who is apparently called Chicago, appeared in this film with Harold Lloyd, in The Cameraman with Buster Keaton, and I believe also in The Circus with Charlie Chaplin. So this monkey Chicago has the distinction of being the only living thing to have appeared in a movie with each of the big 3 of the comedic actors of the 20s, at least the big popular ones in America. So, and it's great in The Cameraman, but the monkey was great in this film. So funny,
so clever. It's just the way it's an animal, and it's so the head is this small, so the brain must be like this tiny, you know. And then he's like, he does this.
Yeah, he's like,
and he points.
Yeah, it's brilliant. It's brilliant.
Like, you gotta look at this, and I'm like, if Lily could do that, her brain is probably bigger than that monkey's. I love she doesn't use it.
I love the little bits where he just take off his little hat and then put it back on again, and like, you know.
I didn't notice that.
Yeah, just loads of little funny bits. And
yeah,
actually,
it was great. That monkey was great.
Brilliant. One of the highlights of the film. And
yeah.
because I watched it the day after with Connie, I actually noticed a few things I hadn't seen before. So sometimes with these silent films, you do miss things. They're very, very short. Like, there's a bit where Harold Lloyd falls down, but he's so in love that he picks up a flower and he starts pulling off the... I never noticed that the first time around. Connie noticed it and clocked it. I was like, oh, that's a cool
yeah,
little...
loves me, not loves
so,
me.
yeah, not massive things, just these little details that you don't catch sometimes. So, anyway, is it a film you must see before you die? For me, it's a yes. It's a great comedy film. It's a great comedy silent film, and yeah, I just loved it.
I didn't like it. I say no.
I'm surprised how much you had to say about it. I really am.
Oh, yeah, but I don't know. It was just it's a pretty long movie to be a silent movie. I think an hour 20 something.
I suppose it depends. I mean, I watch all sorts of silent films.
I'm used to watching these 20 to 60-minute movies or something with Buster Keaton,
yeah.
And so for me, it was a little bit longer. Not that it was a bad thing, because I feel like all of the scenes were necessary.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Yeah, it built up the story.
I thought it was great. I say yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's one of those other guy silent movies. But if there are more of his that you want to show me, then I might be up for it, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's no more in the book, which is really sad, because I honestly thought that Safety Last would be in the book, and I'd never heard of this film, The Kid Brother, never heard of it, but I think it's far and away much better than Safety Last, but yeah, a great silent comedy, and that's about it, I guess. Anything we want to add now?
Oh, the music was nicely set to it.
The music, I can't believe you keep bringing up these things. Let's just keep asking, is there anything else you want to bring? The music was, I actually loved the music, because first time I watched it I was like, yeah, it's a good score, and the second time I listened to it more, and it's by Carl Davis, he does so many of these, but I really enjoyed the musical score. There's one bit where someone knocks on the door, and you hear, knock, knock, knock. I don't like that. I don't like when they put in the sound effects. And it was only one time in the whole film, so it stood out. But the music score was really nice, and it had a recurring theme. You were whistling it, actually, when we took a break. I heard you in the kitchen whistling the theme.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so it's just
I don't remember it now. It's completely
no, yeah, I don't
memory.
either, but I just remember it was really fitting to the film and the...
With every scene, and like, when something was sad, something was kind of like on the edge, something was funny, it was well
timed.
Not timed, but it's like, it fit.
It fit, yeah.
Yeah, and not all silent movies have fit that well. I don't think I've noticed it fitting that well before.
Yeah, it depends. Most silent films don't have the original scores. You know, they haven't survived.
You can tell that this one has been made for that movie, and that they made the music afterwards.
Yeah.
And actually sat there. This is like what they do now, you know? That they watch the movie as they compose and they make the scores. So that was pretty cool. It's like a proper soundtrack. Yeah.
Alright, so that's it then. I really enjoyed this. I'm glad you had a lot to say about it. I'm glad you enjoyed the film. So, you know, anytime I can get you interested in a silent film is good. But I think it's definitely worth it. I think this is one of those films that people who aren't really into the idea of it could maybe watch it and actually enjoy it. This could be one of those kind of maybe gateway films.
And if you sit down and you think like, okay, this is almost 100 years old.
Yeah, you have to take that into account.
Try and appreciate that they made this and they make it look so good.
Yeah.
And some of them act better than some actors now.
Yeah.
You know, and without talking. You know, it was just try and think about how hard it was to make a movie back then, and the fact that, I mean, it's amazing that they even could make a movie back then.
Sure.
And so if you try and take that into account.
And I do think that this has opened my eyes to Harold Lloyd a bit more, I think. I enjoyed Safety Last when I watched it a couple of years ago, but this one I'm really looking forward to checking out his other films. I got one on Blu-ray, so I can't wait to see that one now. So yeah, so that's it. And we've rambled on for a long time, but I think it's worth it. It's a great film. It is a film you should see before you die, I think. And
there is a cat in the movie too.
Is there?
Mm. He places a cat on top of the catapult.
That was funny.
The pole
he goes over to
distract the dog.
He goes over to the house of this bully who he doesn't get on with and has grown up, you know, hating and stuff. And the bully's dog is there ready to go and attack him. And out of nowhere, he pulls a cat out of his pocket or whatever and places it on a post to distract the dog. I love the idea.
And the dog is like after the cat. The cat's just sitting there.
I love the idea that he's like, he knows the dog's going to be there, so he prepared by bringing a cat.
They were probably thinking, oh, I'll bring steak for it, but I was like, no, what's the next best thing or whatever. That's
great gags. It's, you know, you see these modern films and they got all this. I've said it before, you know, all this fucking shit and arse and all that stuff, and then you just see a film that's just so simple, but it just makes me laugh so much more. The laughs are more well earned, I feel. You know, even if at the expense of, you know, the bodies of these comedians, you know, like Keaton and Lloyd and Chaplin, who would throw themselves around and stuff, and, you know, hurt themselves and whatever. But it's you know,
they're like Jackie Chan sometimes.
Yeah, and Jackie Chan.
They do their own stunts.
One of Jackie Chan's main inspirations is Buster Keaton. As the famous quote goes, I forget who says it, pain is temporary, film is forever, and that's what sums up this film. There's not as many stunts of him hurting himself, but there are some. So anyway, we should just close out this rambling now. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.
Goodbye. Goodbye.
You sound like a robot now. You sounded like, where did you learn to fly?
I was actually quoting the movie.
Where did you learn to? Goodbye. You were quoting the film, yeah.
The film?
Yeah.
Yeah. Goodbye. Goodbye.
That weird wave he does. Goodbye.
Goodbye. Oh, and the way he shakes hands.
The way he puts his hand round with the... Thank you.
Take the pancakes. It's like what I say to some people who haven't seen Alien, for example. And it's like, what? It's
79.
79. And they're like, oh, the special effects must be horrible. And then I'm like, just think about that. It's from 79. The limitations they had, and it's mostly practical effects anyways. It looks amazing to be from 79.
Yeah.
It's freaking amazing.
Anyway, that's a whole other film. So, and we'll be talking about that pretty soon.
I want to watch
Alien
anyway. Now. Screw the Japanese one, we're watching Alien today.
Yeah, this is crossing over way too much.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, just
now,
because it's old,
okay,
just take that
totally,
into account.
absolutely.
Watch the freaking movie.
And